presentation, or you can put a message in the chat throughout the presentation. So without further ado, I'll give you an introduction to Northwoods. So the Northwoods Innovation Programme was developed to do three things, one of which is to demonstrate and share innovative tools. So that's what this evening's all about. And we run those through demonstration events, networking events, webinars, as well as producing social media posts, case studies, videos, and our newsletter as well. So we're trying to share information to help encourage woods into management. We're also supporting forestry innovators. So for those that have an idea, that could be a tool, something that's quite far along the lines that you're wanting to tweak, or it could be, an idea right from scratch. We have a range of experts available to support forestry innovators develop that idea a bit further. And then finally, we're working with Silver Foundation to develop the MyForest platform. If you're familiar with MyForest, you'll have seen a few changes over the last couple of years. If you're not, it's effectively a platform where you can map and manage your woodlands, and it's all in one place. So recently they've updated their MyForest inventory, which means that you can store all of your inventory information and then bring it through to your woodland management plan, say. At the moment, they're working on effectively a standardized sales brochure to help build confidence for woodland owners and managers engaging with the supply chain. And that will soon be launched after Christmas. We're looking at spring 25. So do keep up to date with us and with Silver Foundation, and you'll hear more about that in due course. Ultimately, we're trying to re-establish a forestry sector support programme based up here in the North East and Yorkshire region. I mentioned that there's a number of experts around the Northwoods Innovation Programme, and that's Reheat. So I'm based at Reheat. We're hosting the Northwoods Innovation Programme. We've got Martin Glynn, RDI Associates, Silver Foundations and Timber Auctions all working together to bring their respective expertise to help stimulate woodland management. We've been funded by the Forestry Commission's Woods into Management Fund, and that's how we are bringing this webinar to you this evening. Just to give you a little bit of context, so in the region, so that's the Yorkshire and the North East, we've got about 76,000 hectares of unmanaged woodland. If 10% of this were brought into management, it could release a value of over £1 million per year. Plus, there's a range of environmental and social benefits that go along with well-managed woodlands. Now, in the North East, that number is quite high. We're below the UK, well, below England's average, which is at 50%. We're at 37% of woods in management, and that's because of a number of barriers. I'll just put up on the screen now. So you can see there that the top two, you've got funding for woodland management activities. That's both income and also grant, as well as confidence identifying, engaging, and appointing appropriate forestry services. Now, a number of the topics that we as Northwoods are trying to share, and through webinars and through events, as well as supporting different forestry innovators, are to try and overcome these barriers. And this evening we've got Hester from CloudForest to talk to us primarily about how CloudForest as a platform can help improve the transparency of timber supply chains, getting more income into woodlands quicker as well. So there's less time between trying to find a buyer and trying to find a seller, so matching buyers and sellers, and also to give confidence identifying, engaging, and appointing what I suppose going through that forestry sale. So without further ado, I will hand over to Hester to talk more about CloudForest and how it's helping overcome some of these barriers to woodland management. I'll move the slide on just now. Thank you. Over to you, Hester.
Thank you, Rosanna. Hi, everyone. I'm Hester Robertson from CloudForest, and with funding from the Forestry Commission Woods into Management grant, we've been developing an online marketplace to help connect those looking to buy and sell timber, and with a specific aim of supporting local timber economies and small-scale businesses. Why are we doing this? Well, fundamentally, I think local timber economies are really of vital importance to the resilience and health of our woodlands. It's recognised that many of our woodlands would benefit from increased levels of management, that some level of disturbance is useful, and that we need to manage them for disease and pests to improve their ecological condition. And yeah, Rosanna's talked about this a bit, but in England, 40% of our woodlands are owned in parcels of less than 20 hectares, so it needs to be possible to manage small woodlands effectively. And then even for larger woodlands, woodland managers are looking to increase structural diversity and species diversity to build in resilience to climate change and disease and pests. So we've got this growing need for markets for different species and smaller parcels of timber. And yeah, if we don't grow those markets, then we're going to struggle to manage these woodlands. Yeah, that's our healthy forests over there. And why do I see this link to healthy homes? Well, I think there's growing awareness that if we use timber in construction, then we're storing carbon. And it's also replacing carbon intensive materials like steel and concrete. So there's a climate change benefit. But for me, it's all about clean air. We've got forests that are good, providing us with clean air. And there's growing recognition that if we build with timber, the indoor air quality is improved, and sort of growing recognition of the benefits that has for our physical and mental well-being, which is so important. And so, yeah, the Forestry Commission is actually funding lots of exciting work that's going on to develop construction products that are using homegrown timber. And through our work, we've met a lot of really interesting construction companies who are building systems from homegrown timber and want to access that. So yeah, and they're also looking, instead of using, and they're looking to manufacture the homes in factories, but not necessarily one big factory, but distributed manufacturer. So they can use micro factories. So I see there's like a really good match there between the construction companies looking to build with timber and distributed forests as well. So there's a good match there. So yeah, our vision is that, yeah, we're going to have a really flexible forestry operations that help encourage forest complexity and bring richness of biodiversity. And this innovation that's happening in construction has broadened the palette of species and products that are desired. So we can do much more nuanced supply and demand matching and work with what timber we have available, get the most out of our homegrown timber. So yeah, we really want to help shorten supply chains and create resilient supply chains as well. And yeah, I like to think if CloudForest is making it easier to buy and sell homegrown timber, then it's a dedicated effort to make the world smell great. So yeah, with the aim of getting more homegrown wood into construction, we spent last year interviewing the supply chain to understand what challenges people are facing on the ground and how digital tools might be able to help them. Yeah, if you just flick to the next slide, Rosanna. And yeah, what I was expecting to find were some quite nuanced technical glitches that, you know, a digital tool might help overcome. But actually what we found out was something much more fundamental. It was that people and businesses are struggling to find the information they need for both short and long-term planning. And as a result, timber is being wasted. And what I found most surprising was that sawmills, both large and small, don't have the confidence in their ability to secure logs. I'm thinking, yes, invest, but don't get carried away, because I've got no confidence the raw material is going to be there. And we're not talking here 20 to 30 years ahead. We're talking 2 or 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line. And aside from a few who have, you know, access to guaranteed volume contracts, the main information on which sawmills are anticipating future supply is what they see on the market today. And they can end up expending quite a lot of time and energy finding logs. So yeah, next slide. As one sawmill said, the biggest pain in the ass is trying to find certain timbers at certain times, because the liaisons between everyone, they're just awful. And we heard about how this is making it difficult to raise finance for expensive processing equipment. And ultimately, as this sawmill's doing, they can end up questioning the very viability of the business. It's very stressful because you're in the back of your mind thinking, we're going to run out. So yeah, it's not just sawmills that would benefit from knowing what timber operations are planned. Harvesting contractors also would like a full pipeline of work for their expensive machinery. But the reality is that actually timber parcels are a bit more like buses, in that you wait in age and then 3 come at once. So you've got 5 or 6 clients that want you all at the same time, and it just doesn't work. You know, you've got to try and spread it out. And, you know, I remember not that long ago, you didn't used to get live bus updates, and it really was quite terrible. And you didn't know whether to stick around and wait for the bus or to end up walking home. And sawmills are actually having the same problem. So we had one sawmill was explaining that you can have a period of 3 months when nothing's offered to you, and then for some reason 3 or 4 parcels all around £100,000 will be offered. Well, you can't afford to buy them all, and you can't afford not to get one of them. So it's very difficult to do the pricing. And yeah, this all results in increased timber miles and timber ending up in less valuable markets. I'll buy as much as I can afford, or I have the space and money for, and love to keep the rest, but it just disappears and, you know, goes up country, or in some cases goes to the wrong market. So yeah, we at CloudForest really want to bring stronger connections so that there's more and better information about supply and demand out there. And yeah, I think, as one someone will put it, I think this would help longer term planning, which would benefit everyone. And yeah, it's not like the timber that's going to other uses is valueless. And that one sawmill was saying, and there's quite a big sawmill, was saying, you know, we're sat there going, oh bloody hell, I wish you didn't chop that for firewood. We've got a market for that. There's a lot more money in that. So there's a frustration about this sort of wasting of the timber. And yeah, when it came to the construction companies that we interviewed, they were similarly in the dark when it came to what homegrown timber was available. And if they did manage to access homegrown timber, they found a mismatch in speed and methods of communication. Like construction often find getting the information they need a barrier to using homegrown timber. So yeah, we're trying to improve access to information, and yeah, you can go to the next slide. Oh yes, if you liked the quotes, then that was just a little taster of all the interviews that we did. And we found quite a number of themes that we've summarized in a report that you can get on our website. But yeah, there was a lack of market transparency and difficulties in matching supply and demand. But the bit that really surprised me the most was around the power imbalances between organizations of different sizes, but also organizations in terms of what knowledge or information they had. And then underpinning all of the challenges that people talked around were communication barriers, but more fundamentally just the fact that it's very difficult to capture the full value of timber, because, you know, it's not just a commodity. We're managing woodlands that have a lot of public benefits in terms of the ecosystem services they provide, but just generally like home for nature as well. So yeah, you can read more and more, lots of juicy quotes in the report. Okay, thanks. So yeah, what's CloudForest approach as a result of all of this? Well, we already knew that we want to, you know, help build stronger connections between forests and people, and to do that, we want to help facilitate collaboration, like in the way that we work. We want to work with organizations like Northwoods who are on the ground, and build trust, because those were sort of like in terms of woodland managers, if they are going to split out a parcel of higher quality timber, it needs to be done in a way that they can afford to take the time to do that, because at the moment it's actually taking them longer to market smaller parcels than it would a big parcel. And the biggest thing is obviously providing market data. So if we're building out a network, then people can have access to reliable market data on supply and demand and pricing. And that will really help in terms of getting value back down to the woodland. And yeah, hopefully we will be able to grow local timber economies, because we really just think that's crucial and also actually possible. And I think that's the thing that we've got to prove. Like, you want to see timber in construction, there's an easy or a sort of risk that the easy way is just to scale what already exists and not worry too much about smaller scale. But I think that we can have sort of collective efficiency of scale, if you like, through a platform approach. So yeah, we're building a community of local woodlands, independent sawmills, innovative construction companies to ensure there's a sustainable supply of high quality, locally grown timber. Right, so now I'll take you through a quick demo of our platform, and we'll do 3 activities. One is just showing how to list a business onto our directory. Another one is to create a a listing to sell timber. And then the third activity I'll show you how to do is how to get timber alerts to your inbox. So feel free to try and do this alongside. If you're on your computer, you can do it alongside, or yeah. So I will try and share the screen. Okay. And perhaps Martha or Rosanna, you can just tell me when that's come through, because I think last time it took a little while.
That's perfect.
That's all good, Esther.
Okay, super. All right, good. Okay, so and are you just seeing just the web screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Right. All right. Okay, so this is our platform here. So to get to it, you type in cloudforest.market into your browser, and that will bring you to the marketplace. And then the first thing that we do is we're going to sign up. So yeah, we can just enter our details. And a password. And sign up to the newsletter if you like. Okay, perfect. And then this takes you to a setting up screen where there's different things that you can do. So the first thing we're going to do is add a business to the business directory. And that could be, you know, an organization or even a woodland if you want to share information about who your woodland is to the people that you'll be interacting with on the website. And then it's useful here to upload a logo, because that way you're sort of visually identifiable, but also you'll end up, we rotate those who've shared a logo onto the front page of the website, so you'll get more exposure. And yeah, you can fill out a short profile and more details here about your business. And yeah, I just welcome you to share whatever you want, your website, any details. This is all optional, so you can fill out how much you want. And then there's also the option to add a business location if it's like different from your postcode. I know a lot of rural postcodes can cover quite large areas, or perhaps you're just very difficult to find. So yeah, you just can drag it to wherever your business is based. Say we're in Pitlochry, and then that will help people find you. And then down here, you can choose what products your business offers, and if you also do any services as well. And then when people are looking through the directory, they can filter for the right company. And then if you want to be included in the public directory, you just click this box here and save. All right. Oh, my logo is not saved, but never mind. Okay, so then, yeah, just if you want to view what businesses are in the directory, you just go to the business directory up here, and you can click on there to learn more about them. You can filter here for products or services that you might need, and you can also view on a map the different services if you want to see who's nearby you. And we can see CloudForest hopefully got added. Oh well, I don't know where it is, but okay, so that's how to add your business. And if you ever want to edit your details, you just click on the hamburger here, the menu, and your business here, and that's how you fill that out. And then the next thing we're going to do is sell some timber. So we don't let anyone post who's not verified their email address, so I just need to quickly do that step. All right, so I can now sell some roadside logs that I have, and yeah, here I would welcome people to fill out as much detail as possible, because it really helps buyers know if that's a relevant parcel for them and saves time. So you can just put a short title explaining what you're selling, and then much more detail if there's anything any restrictions or any detail around the different parcel that you're selling. We've got a box where you can put the felling license or management plan number here, just to show, so people can check that. And then, yeah, we've got filters, so it's worthwhile selecting, you know, what species you're selling, if it's certified, and you can also add images, which I strongly recommend that you do. So yeah, and it's be worthwhile adding a few. You can add as many images as you like to your listing. And we actually got feedback from sawmills that photos were so important to them that we put a guide together on what photos to show for your timber, because they felt that that would save them a lot of time if they had better photos of the timber that people was offering them for sale. You can also add file to your listing if you've got like a map that you want to share with people, or any other documents that you think is relevant at this time. And then for price, you can not show a price at all, show an offers over price if you just want to indicate like you're not going to accept anything under a certain amount. And you can also put, you know, how much is available, and that will be helpful. And you need to select what units you're going to have up here. So that will help people filter for parcels that are a size appropriate for them. So some people obviously want smaller parcels of timber, and some people can only interested if you've got a big parcel. And then you need to add a location, because that's how people will know it's relevant for them as well. So it'll be, their timber alerts will be set for a certain distance away from them. And then this is a bit that I think we're going to help develop it further, but it's really helpful to help people plan. So you can either just say, right, it's available now, but some of the feedback we were getting is that sawmills and harvesting contractors really wanted more warning of parcels coming to the market, and that can benefit woodland managers as well, because they'll get a better idea of who's interested, and if they've got a bit longer to drum up interest, or even decide, okay, to fell one set of things over next. So you could actually say that, you know, next year I'm thinking of doing this, selling this timber. And, you know, I don't know, it's quite a narrow window, but you could even put a range of a couple of years just to indicate it's coming out. And then you can create that listing. And so I can see my listing here, and I've got the option to edit and view it. And then if we come to our listings page, where we've got all the timber parcels for sale, we'll see that at the top. So if you're looking to buy timber, we'll go on to how to set up timber alerts now. But yeah, you can filter for various different products that people might have for sale, and we've got for each different category, there's then sub-filters. So I think for coppicing down here, then there's lots of different coppice specific filters that apply. So say I'm looking for saw logs, and I can look for larch. Oh, there's nothing that's relevant for me, but I do want it to be certified. I'm actually also interested in oak and coastal redwood and Douglas fir. And so now I'm going to save my search, because there's nothing available at the moment. So yeah. And I need to click go there to filter for location. And I can save this search. And then what will happen is someone lists something that's relevant to these categories. I'll get an automatic email to let me know that it's gone up on the platform, and I don't need to keep checking back again. And if I ever want to edit my searches, or I can view them here. So it's the menu. There's all my bits here, so I can look at the save search. And if I want to edit it, I just view it and say, I'm like, oh, actually, that was way too far. And then change the distance, and then save this. And I can see now that I've actually got 2 saved searches. So if I don't want this, I'll just delete that one. yeah, I think those are the main things to show you today. One last thing is if I log out, maybe you're looking for logs, but you're just so busy, you're never going to get around to signing up for that platform. And I think that's probably very understandable. So what we've done is we've actually created a shortcut for very busy sawmills. So you can click on this button here and just fill out your company name, postcode, what species you're interested in, how far away it makes sense for you to look, basically the search radius, and then set up your account with your name and email address. And if you click join, then that's you done. You automatically have safe search for standing timber and roadside timber for that species. So that's just a quick form for people who are very short of time but are very interested in buying logs or standing timber. All right. So I think Rosanna and Martha, that's me done with the demo.
Okay, in that case, I think we're ready for questions and answers, really. We've not had any questions in the chat so far. So if anyone has a question, if we could just ask you to raise your hand. For me, my raise hand button is at the top of my screen, but I know that for some it's often at the bottom. Whilst everyone comes up with questions, Hester, I've got one for you. I'm interested in the how to take a good photo of timber. What were kind of the top tips that the sawmills put forward? You know, it's something we often think about in our personal lives, but just to know how it works for timber.
Yeah, that's really put me on the spot. I mean, it wasn't really rocket science, I'll be honest. It was just to make sure that you are like not overexposing it and taking like high quality photos. I think a surprising number of people were just taking bad photos, like either they were too far away from the log pile, or it was overexposed, or their shadow was in the way. One really good tip was like to have something for scale. So whether that's your four-legged friend, or maybe you happen to walk around with a spirit level, just something that gives a sense of scale. And then the other thing was to make sure that you're taking enough sort of sample photos so you can like look at the top of the log pile so people can understand how straight it is. Make sure you've got one of the end grain, because I think the sawmills are quite good at looking at like, okay, what does that mean in terms of the quality of the timber? They want to be able to see any features. So, you know, if there's any knots or damage or growths or fungus, just anything like that. And then if it's standing timber, yeah, I mean, it's really difficult to take pictures of trees, but if you go on a cloudy day rather than a sunny day, it's much easier. If you just make sure you try and get some vantage points where you're sort of showing a sample of the trees that's representative of what you're selling. So yeah, it wasn't rocket science, but we did feel like it was worth putting it together. And then things like on your phone, you can put on HDR mode. That will help get good quality photos as well. Yeah.
Quite a lot of advice there. We've got a question in from Harriet. Harriet, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hi, yeah, can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yes.
So I've been told that a program like this had been developed before. I don't remember the name of it. And apparently the success of it was okay, but what the crux was that the funding ran out, and as a result, people had to pay for it, and that's when the success of it kind of tapered off. So I know that CloudForest is a government-funded, or I believe it's a government-funded thing, and it's brilliant that it's there and it's existing free for people at the moment. But do you have any idea of what might happen to it beyond that, or how long it might last as a free program, and what it might look like for people that subscribe?
Yeah, thanks, Harriet. That's an absolutely great question. So yeah, I mean, it's a really, really good question. So yeah, we're really lucky to have had government funding to date, because I think it's very difficult to get something like this going, where you need both by supply and demand there at the same time. And I think networks are notoriously hard to get started, but then once you do, and as they grow, the sort of value grows. And I don't think we're quite there where I think the ultimate aim is obviously to be financially sustainable, and whether we charge a transaction fee or a membership fee, I'm not quite sure how that will work, but I think we just have to balance it so that we're adding value and adding value, and that, you know, the sort of value of being part of the network is worthwhile for people. So yeah, at the moment we're just looking to build out enough of a local network that it sort of self-sustains, and then yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think we'll always try and keep as much of it as free as possible, or at least like, yeah, it is a really tricky one. We're not quite there yet in terms of figuring out how, but I think it will definitely be around for another few years, and we'll just have to see like how I think the more that, you know, if we start charging, then it obviously helps us bring investment and helps us to develop it further, because there's a lot that we want to do. Like, we've been working with sawmills and woodland managers to help discuss how, like, what further features we should add and how we can help them. And so I'm really keen to start building that, but it's difficult because it is expensive to do. So yeah, it's not a very succinct answer, I'm afraid, but
no, it's helpful, thank you. I suppose it's a bit of a catch-22. You know, woodland owners are often quite squeezed anyway, but then also we want to support the network because it supports us.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I do think that in the end we'll bring more value than we will charge for. So hopefully there's a model in there somewhere. But yeah, that is definitely something that we're still trying to figure out how that works.
Thanks, Harriet. We've got a question in from Jonathan, who says, what are the important differences between CloudForest and other platforms such as timber auctions?
Yeah, another good question. I think that, like, timber auctions, I mean, I've never used it, but obviously Ollie Coombe is very experienced timber broker. He's there guiding you through the process. And CloudForest is going to be a bit more of an automated process, and a bit more on the development on the tech side. So we're trying to automate all the boring bits that don't need a person. Like, we're not trying to replace personal relationships and building relationships with people, or even having a timber broker. But there's a lot of bits that could be done automatically that are, like, people don't enjoy filling out forms and all the rest of it. So I think ours is looking to more develop the tools that help anyone build out that network. So yeah, I don't know if there's any other platforms you had in mind. I think the other thing that we really want to do is focus on small scale, shorter supply chains, and really help those organizations. It's not to say that it won't work for bigger parcels, and I think that will ultimately help fund it, and construction need access to all sizes of amounts of timber. But it's I guess our focus is, like, we want to build clean, like, we want to have legal timber, we want it to be really supporting good woodland management. So I think we're kind of coming from rather, how do we make money out of moving timber around? It's how do we support woodlands and these local timber economies? So that will kind of guide the way we develop the platform further.
Hopefully that's answered your question, Jonathan. I know you can't come on the mic, but do let us know if there's any follow-up questions you'd like to ask. We did have our hand up, but it seems to have gone down again. So I will ask, and oh, we've got, here we go. Does CloudForest cover the sales and transactions, or is that left to the buyer-seller? Are there any extra securities to those using CloudForest around sales to incentivize its use?
Yes, another really, really good question. So at the moment, when you find some parcel of timber that meets your needs, we've just got simple back and forth messaging. So you can just message the seller, and then it's up to you how you proceed. But that's one of the pieces that we'd like to develop next, because there can be quite a lot of logistics in terms of finding the right contractor and managing a sort of multi-organization process, in terms of, like, maybe there's a harvesting contractor, there's the buyer, there's a haulier, and also with the timber sale, it's probably not just one thing for sale. Like, there's a quite unusual thing that you were putting up a listing of timber and it's not actually what's getting bought, because the way you describe what's for sale isn't what's going to be bought necessarily, and that they'll chop it up into products of their own choosing. And if we want to have really good market data for the timber industry, then capturing that is quite important, but not necessarily straightforward. It's not like I'm not just putting up a pair of trainers for sale and then you're buying that exact pair of trainers. But I think I think the timber industry would really benefit from more transparency around what's coming to market and when it's coming. So yeah, that we're looking to develop, but we need more funding to do that. So that's my job, to go find that.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan, for the question. We'll go to Michelle next to the hand up, and we've got more questions in the chat. Michelle, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, hi, Hester. Just a question. Sorry, I may have missed this earlier while I was trying to write some notes, but will this platform be open to, so you were talking about construction companies wanting to use wood products. So will they be able to come onto this platform and sort of say, right, we are looking to build X houses in this location, planning permission's gone through whatever, we will be on the lookout for this much wood of this type. So it works that way as well, does it? So that they can put in like an early request into the market to see where the wood might be and how much of it is available to them in any one place.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. So the interactions we've had with construction so far, like some of them have saved searches for logs, like they're willing to purchase raw logs and then process them, organize the processing themselves. And then what we think in the future would be a bit more like they would create almost, like a wanted listing.
A list, yeah.
Describes what they need, and then we can kind of match that with relevant sawmills in the area. And one thing that I've seen that's really another company's developing is I don't know if you've used SketchUp, or it used to be like you could sort of design your house, so someone's doing that for like building design, where you can kind of plop their modules together, and then you can choose your materials, and that will bring the environmental what do they call it, passport for that material. And you can look at your design and compare different costs. And what I think would be so cool is if we can link in sort of, maybe not necessarily live, but up to date in that area. Here's the timber cladding options. And then people can sort of see at design stage even, what are the costs of doing different types of timber or using timber versus another material. And then, like really get that signaling of demand much earlier on, but also of supply, like what trees are in that area. So there's a lot we can do, but right now we're really focused on like sort of getting started and getting initial going. So I think once we build momentum, it would be really great to be more joined up with the construction end, for sure.
Yeah, cool. No, it sounds really good, and I wish you all the best. I hope it goes from strength to strength. Sounds useful. Thanks.
Thanks, Michelle. Josh Parker asks, does the network have a way of overcoming the problems of landholders being stuck with the plantation of species that don't make the most popular timber?
Oh, that's quite a big question. I mean, I think the very fundamental thing that I was setting out to do was develop markets for different species of timber. Actually, when CloudForest very first started out, I wanted to crowdfund forests. So I was looking at creating woodlands and having owners that were kind of interested in sort of biodiversity as well as timber and well as financial return. And it quickly became apparent, not only was the land market a nightmare, but that if we want to have diverse forests, we need markets for all these diverse species that we want to plant in them. So it's not something that CloudForest can solve alone, and it's something that we're not going to do overnight. But what really does give me hope is that the Forestry Commission has funded such a broad suite of projects. So some of the work that other organizations are doing around developing timber products for lots of different species, or using smaller bits of timber, I think will really help woodland managers who maybe don't necessarily have the best timber. But there is this just matchmaking as well that we can do immediately, in terms of woodland managers say, oh, nobody wants beech, and then I see a sawmill and they're like, oh, I don't know where to get beech from, And that it happens a lot. So there's a lot of matchmaking that can just happen that will help. And I think, yeah, also like building this confidence in the supply, like there's a catch-22 of that. If you don't know, if you're not confident that you can get lots of silver birch, you're never going to develop a silver birch flooring product. So we can get increased visibility of what's out there, then people are more likely to invest in sawmilling equipment or whatever that will then provide a market. And I guess with larch, there wasn't much of a market for larch until suddenly it started coming to the, unfortunately, coming to the market a lot. So yeah.
Thanks, Josh. James, I don't know whether you can unmute yourself. Do you want to ask your questions?
No. Yeah, I got two. First one was, is there an option? You've got it there where people with timber can put an advert to say, this is what I've got for sale. Is there a way that sawmills or timber purchasers could put an advert out saying what they're looking for?
Yeah, so the primary way of doing that would be to save the search, because then there's the automatic matching. And we have actually, I don't know, you might not have noticed, but we have actually got a wanted listing already on there.
Perfect.
And yeah, so
I didn't see that, sorry, no.
Yeah, it's not really how we designed it to be used, but we're like open, like we're kind of quite flexible. We're just kind of seeing how people use the platform, and then we're slowly iterating. So yeah, we're kind of working with people, like we'll just get people to do platform demos, learn a little bit, change a little bit. And yeah, if people want to make wanted listings, then fine. It doesn't necessarily work so well with our save search. But I think once we got to a stage where there's a lot more listings happening, people won't need to make that wanted listing because they'll be getting our timber alerts by email. But yeah, in the meantime, people have been using it to create wanted listings.
Okay. Then my other question was, could CloudForest help towards creating a more kind of open dialogue between the going rates for different timber? So
Yeah,
something akin to, I work a lot in the agricultural sector, and weekly they have market updates of the average live weight, dead weight price of every type of livestock, every type of kind of product that they sell. Now, I'm not suggesting we have weekly, because I think that would be unrealistic, but even if it could be monthly or quarterly, it just feels like such a hidden side of things that feels unnecessarily vague.
Yeah, and it does, like in the research we did find that it actually has a lot of negative consequences to woodlands and sawmills and people trying to get work done, because either they struggle to get a commitment to price and that slows down the whole process, or the woodlands are losing out on value, or there's just, yeah, a whole bunch of not helpful things happening basically because of this lack of transparency. So it is something that we really would like to do. And I think the best way that we can do it is by building out these tools that will capture some data from the transactions themselves and then anonymizing that. And I think what we would look to do is create quite a clear policy of how we would use data. Like, I don't know if anyone read the FT article on enshittification of the web, but it's very, very good article. So I recommend reading it. But I think if we don't want to, be using people's data in a way that they don't agree with. So I think we'd need a policy of how that data was being used, and then sharing how we sort of create some sort of pricing data that's useful, because I agree that would be very helpful. Particularly woodland managers, like figuring out whether it's worth managing, like when and what to do with their woodlands and making good decisions.
Lovely. Thanks, Esther.
Thanks, James, for asking those questions. We've got a question from Simon. Simon, I'm going to read your question out because I'd also like to hijack it a little bit, if that's all right. So Simon asks, he says one of the key links is between the buyer and the seller is the timber haulier. Is there an option for hauliers to list themselves? And I'd like to add on to that and just also mention contractors. So the other option is having contractors, based locally and have people having access to contractors. So is there an option to for hauliers, contractors, others to list themselves, and either as just a business or kind of a directory style?
Yes, absolutely. So I logged out, but we have under the when you fill out your business, under the services section, we've got all sorts of things there, like tree nursery, harvesting, tree surveying, haulage. And yeah, it's a great question, because that was something that became so apparent from the interviews. And one person gave us the absolute perfect quote, which was, hauliers know everything before everyone else. And yeah, they're just the secret middlemen who have all the keys, literally, to the forest gates and all the knowledge of who's doing what. And one idea that we've got is that once we start having a fuller business directory, is that if you're part of a transaction, you can actually suggest the people that you're happy to come into your woodland, or even you know, you might know, okay, this haulier has got the right crane for the size of log, so you can start kind of adding people in and making that process smoother.
Thanks, Hester. Simon, I hope that's answered your question, but if you'd like to unmute yourself and follow up, please do. Does anyone else have any questions? We've got a little bit of chatter in the chat, just kind of answering or putting thoughts in on having more open dialogue on the going rate of timber types that James asked. So I'd encourage others to have a quick read in the chat. And that's that, because the conversation is continuing. So in the meantime, I'm going to ask another question. As I say, if you have a question, pop it in the chat, put your hand up. And so my next question is, we've spoken a lot about timber and construction, and I know that's, you know, your passion, and also kind of where CloudForest has come from. We do a lot of work with biomass supply chains, often for energy. And I wondered whether, you know, the other types and other uses of timber are also encouraged on the platform.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that obviously when you're harvesting your forest, you're going to have different products coming out there. So there's no point having to go somewhere else to sell some products and then CloudForest just to sell the bits that are going into construction. And so yeah, we've got when you go to sell, you've got the option to have saw logs, small roundwoods, biomass arisings. You can also list timber products if you've got cladding or decking or anything like that for sale. And yeah, it's really interesting. There's a few companies up around here who are like looking for biomass to create biochar, and obviously there's like new types of insulation and other products that are getting made from timber. So it's really interesting where this could all go. Yeah, we just need to focus on something to help get the marketplace going and get things moving, basically.
Thanks, Hester. I've not seen any more questions come in, so I'm going to ask another one, unless anyone wants to jump in ahead of me, which I can't see anyone jumping in. So what's next for CloudForest? You know, we've got a great platform that's developing, trying to sign up more users. What's next?
So after this webinar, well, not literally straight after, but then the next thing on my to-do list is to get as many saved searches on the platform as possible. So we did a little bit of a focus around Inverness as a bit of a trial, and we got basically all the small sawmills to save a search, and the woodland owner manager listed up a parcel and then got an inquiry the same day. So I think that's going to be the key to making it valuable, like worth enough for someone to make the effort to make their timber listing. If we have enough saved searches that they'll just automatically land in the inbox of all the relevant people. So yeah, if you're a sawmill or harvesting company, you might receive a phone call or email from me encouraging you to save a search. And that's our key thing, is to build out these networks so that the platform's self-sustaining in terms of use, like people are finding it useful enough that they're using it. And yeah, the other sort of big thing is to find funding for further development. We're really keen to develop the transaction part, because we think that will add a lot of value in terms of saving people time and making it worth woodland managers' effort to separate out a high quality parcel and sell that separately if it's part of a bigger sale, that kind of thing. And yeah, get that data so that people have a better idea of what's coming to market. So yeah, there's a lot to do.
There certainly is. Any other questions?
And actually, just to respond to the one about harvesting costs, there is literally on my to-do list. We started researching, like what I kind of wanted to have was a flow chart just to give people a really simple idea of harvesting costs for their site relative to like the steepness of the ground and all the different factors that feed in, because it did seem like there was quite a lot of information about harvesting, but actually if you had a woodland and you hadn't engaged a woodland manager yet, then you might not really, that seemed to be one of the things that people were really didn't realize, that the price of timber was so dependent on their site. So I actually wanted to write a blog about that, but I haven't done it yet.
I think it's a really interesting point, and I mentioned right at the start the work that Silver Foundation are doing to kind of produce standardized sales brochures, which is to help improve the information that comes, that is used to start negotiations, start conversations around timber parcels and timber sales as well. And it's ultimately to help de-risk it and reduce, unknowns at a later stage in the process. So it's really interesting. Whilst we're on the topic of Silver Foundation, I'd wonder whether you want to touch on any of the work that on any of the partnerships you've got going on. We've worked quite closely together with you, trying to support CloudForest as part of our innovator support with the Northwoods Innovation Programme. Do you want to touch on any other partnerships you're currently and other people you're currently working with?
Yes, thanks for that. That's very embarrassing. I meant to put it in the talk about in the presentation. So yeah, with the Woods into Management project, we've been partnered also with Silver Foundation. And we're building a link between their mapping software and CloudForest so that people can transfer their timber inventory directly across and just save them a bit of time there. And in the far future, I can see this as a way of people really understanding more about where their timber is coming from and what the impact that is on biodiversity and all the rest of it if we sort of build these links up to mapping software.
I would just add to that if anyone wants to find out more about the Silver Foundation and the work they're doing, obviously you can look on the website. We'll also provide updates, particularly around the standardized sales brochure through our newsletter as well. So if you're on our newsletter, you'll hear about it through that. If you're not, I'd encourage you to sign up, and you should be able to find it on our website, or however you sign up to the webinar this evening. Michelle's got probably our last question. Michelle, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hi, thanks. Yeah, just very quickly, how far in advance can you put a projected sale? So if you have sort of multiple coops, if you're coppicing, or you've got multiple parcels of woodland that are at different stages, would you be able to put onto the platform that, yes, maybe next year you should have a parcel of this, in another 2 years' time there'll be some of this, in 5 years' time there'll be some, or does that just get silly?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's something that we haven't really tested yet. I mean, I think that we've put that date range, and I think it really could be valuable to put stuff that's like next year or even a year away. And someone might say, well, actually, I really need some of those logs now. Can you fell it earlier, or that kind of thing? So I think it's probably at this point up to you to judge what makes sense, and you could just put some high level indications out there. And then I think what we've got to go, once we're a bit further down the line in terms of people using the platform, what we've got to go away and think of, like, how do we kind of almost formalize that process of capturing not just timber parcels available sort of in the next 12 months, but like further away. How do we, because I really do think that sawmills would benefit from that information. And that actually woodland managers can benefit as well, because they can start to prioritize and also plan. And it doesn't matter that it doesn't, obviously plans change and those parcels won't necessarily happen, but I think the information is useful. So it's just, we've got to look at how do we capture that in an efficient way, so that
I think it could be useful, just because we're talking sort of longer time scales with these sorts of products and natural materials. We're not making cans of beans or something, so it's being able to work over a longer time frame and to be able to give information over a longer time frame to give visibility, I think would be great.
Yeah, so you can do that already. You can on the
cool.
things you can do the dates, and yeah, and it's the same with construction. You know, that they're not putting up a house overnight. The planning, design is several years long. So
sure.
I feel like there's a good marriage there.
Great. Okay, thanks very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle. I don't think we have any other questions, and we're very quickly running out of time to let everyone kind of get on with their evenings and kind of digest what they've heard this evening. But I think I'd like to highlight, I suppose, Harriet's comment, which is very lovely in the chat. Thank you, Harriet, who says, thank you for all your work, Hester. It's much needed and she hopes it's a great success. And then also Mark, kind of another comment. He says it's a very interesting development. Thanks for taking us through it. I guess the success will depend on people using it, so it becomes a true marketplace. Again, he wishes you all the best with it. So I think that's a really nice point to end on, which is that, you know, through the questions and throughout the presentation, Hester's presented a lot of ideas that to build on the platform that they've got at the moment to kind of make it more useful to the timber market. But to do that, you know, there needs to be kind of a critical mass of users. So I'd really encourage everyone to go out and sign up. Give it a go, play around with it. If you have some timber to list, pop it on there and see what happens. And, you know, I think it can only be successful if the industry gets behind it. So I'd really encourage everyone to get behind it. Thank you, Hester, for your time this evening and taking us through CloudForest, as well as your research and your Homeward Bound report is really interesting. So I'd encourage everyone to give it a read. We've put a link to it in the chat. And as Hester mentioned, it can be found on the CloudForest website. We will be sending out an evaluation form. We'd love you to answer it, and particularly with any comments on this evening or any ideas that you'd like us to host for another time. We'll also, you know, you're very welcome to get in contact with us and we can pass your comments on to Hester. So please do get in touch. You know, we really enjoy hearing from people. And then finally, I suppose, thank you all for joining us. It's a pleasure to have so many engaged attendees on the webinar. So thank you very much. And with that, I wish you all a good evening.
Thanks very much, you too. Thank you. Bye.